since I've lived in Arizona almost 40 years, and I've also lived in a district for 20 years that was 90% Mexican. So I think I should be prepared to talk about the new law, the new tougher immigration law, which is causing quite a lot of controversy and upset around the country as well as in Arizona. I'm going to have to say that I support the law because Arizona is in a very deep hole with the budget, and they're cutting costs every way they can. And I've been on access for ever since I got disabled back.
It's Medicaid.
Medicaid, state aid, since I was disabled back when I was 52. I'm 78 now. So during that time, I went to Maricopa County clinics. That was the access plan. That's where most of the access or Medicaid people, the plan. And during that time, I saw a great many women who were young women with a lot of children, but who couldn't speak English. So you become aware that they are taking, they are coming and getting on welfare. And I didn't, because this was the policy, this was what was going on. I didn't resent these women. I didn't punish them in any way whatsoever for them getting something that I was also getting. Because I felt that when the time came when the country had to or needed to, then was when they would have to, crack down, you might say, on the privileges that they were and did give the Mexican immigrants, regardless of whether they're illegal or not, for years. And I think that I always think, I just knew a lot of people felt like, we can't really deny these people health care or food stamps when they're starving and their children are starving. It just isn't in us. And this was true. This was, I think, why the immigration laws gradually weren't enforced. They were hardly enforced after first they started with the plan of migrant workers would come up here and they would work for a certain amount of time and then they would go back to Mexico. Well, gradually they just stayed, and the laws. Well, what began to happen then is a huge flow of illegals came across the border. And I don't think a lot of people who don't live in the border states realize, how big the borders are and how porous and how many people were coming across all the time, coming into California, I've lived in California too, and I saw it down there. And Texas is not where I've lived, but this was gradually going to...
Don't mess with Texas.
This was gradually going to, overload. And that's just what has happened today. Is now, with this new law, they're going to deny illegals these benefits for the first time. Food stamps are going to be denied them. Why? Because it's like the state feels it can no longer afford to feed this endless flow of immigrants that is still happening. Coyotes are still smuggling people across the border, and you wouldn't think, but it's still happening. And So I would be seeing this, and I know that down the road a ways, when you've got the population coming from another country, then you aren't ever addressing the problem of more population than they can put to work, that they can afford. But for years, the overflow has been coming to the United States illegally. So this is why I'm going to support, I support the bill, because the United States has no influence over what happens in Mexico to cause people to come north. They have just absorbed the overflow for years, and now it's like they got to cut corners. There's a deep recession, and has been a deep recession in Arizona and the whole country. It's just a crunch, a budget crunch. So Governor Janet Brewer did not veto the bill. She passed it. And I didn't think she would, just because of how deep the budget is in trouble.
Did you see in the paper this morning? Our sheriff is thinking about running for
Governor, yes. A lot of people don't like Arpaio, but Arpaio's idea is that if you arrest the illegals, hold them in jail for a while, where they can't make any money, they can't get to work, this is a bigger deterrent than just taking them back to Mexico, where a lot of them turn around and come right back. So, and they have been doing that for a long time. So he believes that he has, and he knows he has stopped some of the murders and kidnappings, and this was going on with the drug people who are illegals themselves. The most of these kidnappings for ransom, or all of them, are of illegals kidnapping the illegals who are involved in heavy drug activity, heavy drug transference from Mexico. So when you round up these people and put them in jail, he said this has been a big deterrent to these murders and these kidnappings that were starting to engulf law enforcement in Phoenix just a while back. So the change and the crackdown and the discouragement that illegals are starting to feel has already affected the flow. And when I see Arpaio on TV, he's super sensitive to criticism, I think, and responds to it in a way that I don't particularly like. But he's our sheriff, and he's been reelected a number of times, so he's the one that's going to deal with this. Doesn't matter whether you like him or anybody else likes him. He is the one who's going to deal with the criminal activities.
I can hardly wait for him to take a shot at God.
Well, this guy, he looks pretty tired to
I don't mind voting
me.
against him for a sheriff, but I'd love to vote against him for governor.
Well, yeah, and I don't
Is
believe
this a
that
real
he'll
state or
ever
is this
be
a
governor. I
territory?
think
What
that
is
Arpaio
this
is
place?
getting tired. So I think that there's going to be an emotional reaction to this, and people are going to think that, they're going to be discriminated against, and Hispanics are going to be, good heavens, innocent people are not going to be detained, they're not going to be arrested. Why? They can barely handle the criminal element with what law enforcement we've got. I think that the adjustment is going to come.
Stay tuned, folks, because we got one coming right up after this about living on the west side for 13 years, gunfire, shots, burglary in her apartment, and all the good stuff. So stick around. This will be happening right after.